Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, so the time that we've spent together, hopefully you brothers and sisters notice that I try my best to present to you authentic information in a simple, easy, plain manner that's enjoyable, not too much laughing, too much joking. Hakala Habibi, good to see you. Barakallahu feekum. But at the same time, in a serious manner, and I try my best to present to you facts and information of all sorts, within Islam and outside Islam. History, geography, culture, etc. Now, okay. So, before we start tonight's class on the supplications of the Quran Kareem, I have a few questions I want to ask you, brothers and sisters, inshallah. And the questions are going to lead to something that's going to have a direct connection to the Quran. Okay? That which I'm going to ask you about has a direct connection to the study of the Quran Kareem. Now, and some of the supplications. Alright. So, right now we're living in a special time. What's special about the time, this month or this season that we're in?
It's a sacred month.
A sacred month, mashallah. Anybody else?
It's the start of the new year for the non-Muslims.
The start of the Gregorian calendar. That's important. Okay. Anything else?
The actions what's going on in America these days.
Stuff that's happening in our country. People getting killed, shot. Every time you turn around, a shooting, people getting blown up, ran over, etc. Anything else?
New presidency.
New presidency. All right, good. What else? What about the holidays? What holidays are going on right now? Hanukkah. Kwanzaa. What else? Can't forget Christmas. Right? There's no doubt about that. What else? It's all in one area. What else? New Year's. There's no question about that. What else? Anything else?
That's the beginning of Rajab.
Beginning of Rajab. Similar to what he mentioned. He said a sacred month. Anything else? What about Chinese New Year? When is that? Similar. That's a lot, right? All in one time. There's no doubt about that. For many races, many people of different faiths and different religions. Correct and correct. Okay. What else? Or what's so special about the sacred month? No fighting. Sacred. Hands off. Tayyib? Anything else?
I was going to say, are your deeds multiplied as well?
It's an amplification of deeds, good or bad. A hasana, what he's saying in this month, is much more than just a normal hasana. And a sayyah will be much more than just a normal sayyah during this time. All right? Anything else? I'm sorry? Anything else with regards to the sacred months? Like, what are they called? What's the title? What's the bunch? We know it in English, sacred months. What's it called in Arabic? Al-Ashhuru Al-Hurum. The haram months, the unlawful months, the inviolable months, the off limits, off hands, don't touch months. The stay back, no trespassing, what? Months. Alright, Tayyib. Anything else? How many are they? Four, which are?
Ramadan. Rajab.
Muharram. Dhul-Hijjah. Ramadan included or not?
No.
Alright, so how many months are there? Four. And what are they? One more time, please.
Dhul-Hijjah, Dhul-Qa'dah, Rajab, and Muharram.
Rajab.
Dhul Hijjah,
Dhul-Hijjah,
Dhul Qaeda.
Muharram, and which one, guys? We're off balance now.
Both of them.
All right, let's make it easy. How many months are back to back?
Well, three.
Which are?
Rajab, which is now.
Aha. Dhul Hijjah, Dhul Qaeda, and
Slow down, slow down. Rajab. He says Rajab. All right. What months are back to back? For sure, no guessing.
Dhul Hijjah, Dhul Qaeda,
Dhul Qa'dah, number one. Dhul Qa'dah before Dhul Hijjah.
Dhul Qaeda, Dhul Hijjah,
Dhul Hijjah, Muharram. How many of them?
three.
Three. They're what?
Back to back.
Back to back. Perfect. What's the lone soul month? Rajab. All right. Good. Excellent. Okay. Anything else about these sacred months? What's the history behind these sacred months?
In Jahiliyyah, they wouldn't fight
Some
during
treaties.
In Jahiliyyah, they wouldn't what?
fight during those.
They wouldn't fight. What does that have to do with Islam now?
Their treaties. There.
Confirm their sacredness too.
So it predates the time of the Prophet. So
Predates the Islamic period. Jahiliyyah. But it did what?
It remained.
It was confirmed. It was acknowledged. It was what?
Economic.
It was acknowledged. It was in Jahiliyyah and it was also now what?
And Islam.
In Islam. Any tweaking or the exact same for months? What's tweaked? Tell us.
They used to move Rajab.
I'm listening. I can't hear you. Shut up.
Oh, sorry. I realized. I know there was like two tribes. There was one that said that it was one of the months that were Rajab. That was Rajab. And there was another tribe that said that the sacred month.
In other words, the people of Shirk, they played around with things that they weren't supposed to play around with. Similar to what? What else did they play around with? They made animals haram. This animal is for Allah. This animal is for the idols. This animal can be slaughtered. This animal cannot be rode upon. And what surah? An number 6. The cattle. The cattle. They messed with Allah's way. And from that is that they played around with time. Saying this is lawful, now push it up, turn it back so they can fight, etc. Where does Allah talk about this? What surah? Alright, today, in our times, what has man done to play around with time?
Daylight savings.
Daylight savings. What's the history behind daylight savings? Anybody know? When did daylight savings become a thing and why? Industrial Revolution. Anybody else? What's the history of daylight savings? Alright, tight, no problem. Anything else before I share what I want to share with you guys? With regards to the sacred months and the connection to the Quran King? Alright, no problem. Khair inshallah. So let's move forward. Bidnillahi ta'ala. We can take off the lights now, please. Jazakumullah khairan. Everybody did a great job for participating. Alright. One last thing, with regards to the sacred months, with regards to Rajab, is that Rajab is considered what? Or something else that is considered. Anybody can take a guess what I'm thinking? What's special about Rajab? Rajab is considered to be the final buffer zone before it really gets tight and close. Because once you reach Sha'ban, then it's what? Then you're there, pretty much. With regards to the missed days, a woman, if a man was sick or traveling, with regards to getting yourself in gear, getting in shape, Quran, waking up, going to sleep, lowering your gaze, protecting your tongue. Now, you really feel it when you're where? In Sha'ban. But Rajab is still relatively, Ramadan is close, but it's not what? Like right there, menacing. You get what I'm trying to say or not? Is this not the case? Just think about that now. The winter into the spring into the summer. You got to change your clothes, you got to do this to your house, you got to get prepared for the spring. It's still kind of cold and chilly. You know, you have a little bit of what? Time. Versus when those hot days start coming. And the next thing you know, it's right there. You guys get what I'm trying to say or not? So Rajab is considered to be a buffer zone of a final buffer zone. Is this not the case? Alright, are there any other virtues of Rajab? هل لهذا الشهر الحرام فضائل؟ هل لها مزايا خصائص؟ هل تشرع فيه عبادات خاصة من قيام وصيام, fasting, prayer? Are there any extra things to do in Rajab? Any extra rewards in the month of Rajab? Yes or no, guys? Huh? What are they? Mahia. Siyam. Fasting is entire month of Rajab. Anybody else? Sorry. All right. So I have a few things that I'm going to share with you, brothers and sisters, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, tonight. All right. This is a great book, which is called مختصر لطائف المعارف للحافظ or للإمام الحافظ ibn Rajab al-Hanbali rahimahullah ta'ala. Obviously he died in the year 795 of the 8th century, classic era. He has a book which is called Lataif al-Ma'arif. And this is the summarized version of this book. It's an excellent book for every single Muslim. And perhaps we'll come back to that. Tell you something else I would like to share with you, brothers and sisters, بإذن الله تعالى. السؤال أريد من فضيلتكم تعريفا للأشهر الحرم. ما هي؟ وهل في هذه الشهور الثواب مضاعف وكذلك الذنوب? What are the sacred months? What are their virtues? What sins are more rewards are more concerning these months? Very beneficial article here from a great source. One of my favorite websites, you all know, Wikipedia, in Arabic and in English. Al-Ashhurul Hurum. What are the sacred months? Alright? Very important discussion here. Another question here. It says, أود أن أعرف هل من هذه السنة أو هل من السنة قول دعاء معين أول ليلة من شهر رجب والدعاء كالآتي اللهم بارك لنا في رجب وشعبان وبلغنا رمضان. Can you make this dua? Oh Allah, bless us in Rajab and Sha'ban and allow us to hop, skip and jump, which is Ramadan. Allahumma barik lana. Oh Allah, bless us in this month of Rajab and give us barakah in the next month, which is Sha'ban. The next thing you know, it is وَبَلِّغْنَا Ramadan, and allow us to reach Ramadan. Is that authentic or not? Can you make that supplication? Should you make that supplication? As many Muslims may do on social media, etc. Tayyib. All right. Who's our reciter tonight? Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. We're going to read from Surah At-Tawbah, the 9th chapter. Huh? عن يد وهم صاغرون. نعم. طيب. All right. Who's our reader tonight, inshallah? معك. خلي الشباب يتعبوا. بسم الله. تفضل. يلا بسم الله. طيب. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, بعد أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم من همزه ونفخه ونفثه إن عدة الشهور عند الله 12 شهرا في كتاب الله يوم خلق السماوات والأرض منها 4 حرم ذلك الدين القيم فلا تظلموا فيهن أنفسكم وقاتلوا المشركين كافة كما يقاتلونكم كافة واعلموا أن الله مع المتقين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in chapter 9, verse 36, indeed, the number of months with Allah is 12. In the register of Allah, fi kitabillah, from the day He created the heavens and the earth. Of these, 4 are sacred. That is the correct religion. So do not wrong yourselves during them. Do not oppress yourselves during these sacred months. The translation then states, and fight against the disbelievers collectively as they fight against you collectively. And know that Allah is with the righteous. It says here in the translation, those who fear Him, those who ward off evil. And know that Allah is with the muttaqeen. Before you fight, while you fight, and after there's peace, victory, defeat, Allah is with the muttaqeen. Have taqwa. Before you fight, have taqwa. While you fight and have taqwa, after the hostilities have ceased, you be mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's indispensable. We win, you have to have taqwa. We lose, you have to have taqwa. You're taken captive by the disbelievers. Unfortunately, you have to be patient and have taqwa. Now, it's something that you can never ever do without universal teaching of Islam. The beauty of the Quran. Alright, tell you. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us that according to Allah, the months aren't 11, nor 10, nor 13, nor 9, but instead they're 12. This is something Allah has decreed. This is something Allah has mandated on the day that He created the heavens and the earth. Things that we can't even fathom. A world or an existence without time. Because everything in our lives is based off of time, from birth to death. Everything that you do. Eating, sleeping, drinking, everything is based off of time. So Allah says before, at the time, when Allah created the heaven and earth, this is what He decreed, is that there will be 12 months. And that these 12 months are all times for you to fear Him. But the 4 months, specifically, especially, you have to have a heightened sense of taqwa and a heightened sense of muraqabah. For you to realize Allah is Raqib. Allah is watching me, everything that I do concerning these 4 months. Alright, further instructions with regards to fighting the people of shirk and kufr, and with regards to having the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, طيب, خير inshallah. Everybody repeat after me. This shows you the beauty of the internet. Inshallah. Here يقول الناظم والشاعر عد الشهور كلها 12 أولها محرم ثم صفر ثم ربيعان الجمادان رجب شعبان والصيام للتالي وجب ثم شوال يأتي بعده ذو القعدة يختمها جميعها ذو الحجة. So it's 3 lines of poetry in which it speaks on these sacred months. عدوا أو عد الشهور, count all of the months. كلها 12. أولها محرم ثم صفر. First month will be Muharram, then Safar. What's 3 and 4? Rabi al-Awwal, then Rabi al-Thani. 5 and 6, 7 and 8, 9 and 10, 11 and 12. Alright, so if you want to memorize them quickly, simply, without thinking, you can do so in the form of poetry, the spoken word, right? The what? The bars, the lyrics, Lyrics matter. Lyrics what? Lyrics matter. Alright, طيب, inshallah. So anyone wants to memorize that, he can do so, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Alright, let's move forward with the class, guys, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Okay. The question says, أريد من فضيلتكم تعريفا للأشهر الحرم ما هي؟ وهل في هذه الشهور, what are the months, what are the rewards, what are the blessings? So it states here فالأشهر الحرم هي ذو القعدة وذو الحجة والمحرم ورجب كما في الصحيحين من حديث أبي بكر رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال إن الزمان قد استدار كهيئته يوم خلق الله السماوات والأرض السنة 12 شهرا منها 4 حرم 3 متواليات ذو القعدة وذو الحجة والمحرم ورجب شهر مضر الذي بين جمادى وشعبان. وقوله رجب شهر مضر الذي بين جمادى وشعبان لأن ربيعة كانوا يحرمون شهر رمضان ويسمونه رجبا، وكانت مضر تحرم رجبا نفسه، ولهذا قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الذي بين جمادى وشعبان تأكيدا وبيانا لصحة ما سارت عليه مضر. So there were different Arab tribes and clans of the pagans, the mushrikun. They would play around with the months in order to fight and in order to make peace. They fiddled around with the months. So the Prophet ﷺ tells us, as Abu Bakr, with the ta on the end, he narrated, and obviously the HajjatulWada, during the farewell pilgrimage, or the Fath of Mecca, the conquest of Mecca, He says, إِنَّ الزَّمَانَ قَدْ اسْتَدَارَ. Things have been fixed. They're back where they belong, how they normally originally were. The day that Allah created the heavens and the earth. The year composes of 12 months, 4 are sacred, 3 of them are back to back. And they are Dhul Qa'dah, Al-Hijjah, and Muharram. And then there is Rajab. The Prophet ﷺ says, the Hadith of Bukhari Muslim, and Rajab, Shahru Mudar, is the month of this tribe, of Mudar, and not of Rabi'ah. The other tribe, they called Ramadan Rajab. They made it a sacred month, and it wasn't supposed to be a sacred month. So this tribe was acknowledged with being correct, and that is Shahru Mudar, which is between Jumad al-Akhir and Sha'ban. Before Sha'ban and after Jumada Thani. Everybody clear this or not? Okay. وأما مضاعفة الثواب والعقاب في هذه الأشهر فقد صرح بها بعض أهل العلم استنادا لقوله تعالى إن عدة الشهور. قال ابن كثير رحمه الله تعالى في تفسيره فلا تظلموا فيهن أنفسكم أي في هذه الأشهر المحرمة لأنها آكد وأبلغ في الإثم من غيرها كما أن المعاصي في البلد الحرام تضاعف لقوله تعالى ومن يرد فيه بإلحاد بظلم نذقه من عذاب أليم. وكذلك الشهر الحرام تغلظ فيه الآثام، ولهذا تغلظ فيه الدية في مذهب الشافعي وطائفة كثيرة من العلماء، وكذا في حق من قتل في الحرم أو من قتل في الحرم أو قتل ذا محرم. ثم نقل عن قتادة قوله إن الظلم في الأشهر الحرم أعظم خطيئة ووزرا من الظلم في سواها، وإن كان الظلم على كل حال عظيما ولكن الله يعظم في أمره ما يشاء. انتهى كلام ابن كثير. Ibn Kathir says concerning that verse from chapter 9, verse 36, the months are 12 to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says is that sins are worse. Many of the ulama said that sins are worse during these months. Even though sins are bad and ugly all of the time. So someone who commits murder or manslaughter or kills or does any crime during these months is similar to one who makes those crimes in Mecca and in the region or the area which is Al-Masjid Al-Haram. Some scholars say it's just the Masjid, some say it is a specific region, and some say it is Mecca, all of it. This is why some of the early Muslims, they left Mecca, they didn't want to stay there. It's too dangerous. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran Kareem, Surah Al-Hajj, وَمَنْ يُرِدْ فِيهِ, and whoever wants to deviate, ilhad, yamilu, to stray away from the path, Allah says, we will give him a taste of a painful punishment. So this verse in Surah Al-Hajj clarifies is that sins in Mecca and in the Haram are worse. So many scholars, they said this is the same case with regards to the sacred months, whatever those sacred months may be. All right, moving forward. Ibn Kathir, he discusses that. Al-Qurtubi, وقال القرطبي رحمه الله لا تظلموا فيهن أنفسكم بارتكاب الذنوب لأن الله سبحانه إذا عظم شيء من جهة واحدة صار له حرمة واحدة وإذا عظمه من جهتين أو جهات صارت حرمته متعددة فيضاعف فيه العقاب بالعمل السيء كما يضاعف الثواب بالعمل الصالح فمن أطاع الله في الشهر الحرام في البلد الحرام ليس ثوابه ثواب من أطاعه في الشهر الحلال في البلد الحرام. Then Al-Qurtubi, in his tafsir, he reiterates this point that sins during these times are worse and uglier, as rewards during these times are prettier or better, they're amplified. Alright? So, alright, khayr inshallah, let's move forward now. So these are just a few examples here of what the classic ulama of the past said regarding al-ashhur al-hurum, the sacred months. Khayr inshallah, some scholars even have the view is that blood money, the diya, is higher if you kill somebody during this month or during these months. What's the diya?
It's the money paid for.
What is it? Come here.
How much is it?
Yeah.
Like,
100 camels.
100 camels. How much does one camel cost?
A lot.
Get here.
Oh, a lot.
Are we?
100 camels.
How much is one camel?
Money.
So imagine 100 camels. Alright, what are some of the rulings of diya in Islam? What if you break someone's finger and you destroy it? How much do you have to pay? When you poke somebody's eye out, you run over somebody, you destroy their leg.
Take same part.
Yeah, I need their rulings for every single one.
Yes.
Body parts. You do harm and damage to a person. Tell you, what are the rulings of manslaughter? First degree, second degree murder in Islam. Can you pay your way out of murder? Yes or no?
Yes.
Such as what? You can just kill somebody and pay for it in Islam?
The family has to be okay with it.
The family has to what?
Has to accept it.
Should they accept it?
Maybe.
Is it recommended for them to accept it? It's a serious question.
Yes.
You say yes. With the name?
Huh?
فمن أخفي له من أخيه شيء فاتباع
Yes, sir.
وداع إليه ذلك يلا. Alright, tell you, that's all a part of the Quran. Studying what? The Quran. Ramadan is right around the corner. What's the Imam reciting tonight? الذين هم في صلاتهم خاشعون. كيف تخشع وانت ما تفهم الكلام؟ مستحيل. How are you going to feel anything in the salah? You don't understand what's being said. You can't reflect on the Quran if you don't what?
You don't understand?
Even the basics. So Surah Al-Baqarah, almost 300 verses. If I don't know the basics of diya and talaq and of inheritance, that means the majority of the surah will be what? Nothing. Nothingness. And that's unacceptable for what? For Muslim. I'm not a scholar. I'm not a student of knowledge. I'm an average day-to-day Muslim. But I know there is what? Basic system. Basic what? Basic system. And of course, when we get the Muslims away from Sharia law, we've taken out 1/3 of the Quran. By the end of that. We've uglified the Sharia law. Because the Sharia law is just cutting off someone's hand, decapitating someone, tossing a homo from a tall building. That's Sharia law. So once we've uglified just the word and the term, you get goosebumps just hearing it. Sharia law. We have successfully removed you from 1/3 of the Quran. Because 1/3 of the Quran is pertaining to what? Halal and haram. including all aspects of life. From the foods you eat, dietary restrictions, hunting, fishing, and the list goes what? On and on and on. So it's cattle. It's a huge problem now. Alright, tell you. Here in this article, it says في التراث العربي قبل الإسلام وفي الدين الإسلامي فإن 4 أشهر من التقويم القمري وهي ذو القعدة وذو الحجة والمحرم ورجب تسمى الأشهر الحرم وهذه الأشهر الحرم يوضع فيها القتال إلا ردا للعدوان. You cannot fight during these months, correct? You can't be aggressive, offensive. But if someone tries to hurt you and oppress you, then you are allowed to Bismillah. Raddan lil udwan. You are allowed to what? Defend yourself and fight back. Huh? Okay, tell you. Much can be said with regards to the things that were done before the Messenger of Allah became a prophet and a messenger, and the things that were acknowledged, and the things that were abolished, Allah did away with. That's no good. Remove that. And things that were tweaked. Allah didn't remove everything. Certain things were taken away, and 70% of it what? Remained. Everybody turn to Surah. Based off of two main things. Number one, Millat Abikum Ibrahim. Ibrahim's descendants, Ismail, and the Arabs, Quraysh, Banu Hashim, them being upon that original sunnah that was originally good, such as Hajj and Umrah, such as honoring the guests, things like this, And then secondly, cultural norms which were positive. There were good cultural norms that Allah acknowledged. And He didn't what? Abolish. And of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He honored those Arabs by acknowledging their cultural practices and by making the last of His prophets and messengers from them, and His book being recited in their language. Alright? So, much can be said regarding that. Okay, when were these months? The article says, كانت الأشهر الحرم معظمة في شريعة إبراهيم واستمر ذلك باقيا فكان العرب قبل الإسلام يعظمونها ويحرمون القتال فيها حتى بدأ العرب باستخدام النسيء في تقويمهم مما أدى إلى تأجيل الأشهر الحرم في بعض السنوات أو تعجيلها. وقد ذكر هذا التقويم في القرآن بصيغة الاستنكار والتحريم. إنما النسيء زيادة في الكفر يضل به الذين كفروا يحلونه عاما ويحرمونه عاما ليواطئوا عدة ما حرم الله فيحلوا ما حرم الله زين لهم سوء أعمالهم والله لا يهدي القوم الكافرين. التزم العرب في الجزيرة بعدم الأشهر الحرم وشذت عن ذلك قبائل بنو خثعم وبنو طي إذ كانوا يستحلون في تلك الشهور الحروب. Okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what does He say in the next verse? Allah says, verse number 37. Listen carefully. Indeed, the postponing of the restriction within sacred months is an increase in disbelief, by which those who have disbelieved are led further astray. They make it lawful 1 year and unlawful another year to correspond to the number made lawful by Allah, and thus make lawful what Allah has made unlawful, made pleasing to them is the evil of their deeds. And Allah does not guide the disbelieving people. So they were playing around with the time. Now it's sacred. Oh, it's no longer sacred. When they wanted to fight and wage war and raid their fellow tribes, they would switch the years around. They would switch the months around. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that this is even more kufr. Ziyadatun fil kufr. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He misleads them by allowing them to do this. And of course, there are heirs to all races and people. Today, people, they make a peace agreement, a ceasefire, And what do right before the ceasefire? They go on a killing orgy. They blow up as many people as they can on the last day before the ceasefire. And obviously their descendants and followers of those who threw their nets on the day before the Sabbath to play around, right? Their books and their scriptures tell them to cover their heads, and they shouldn't display their adornments, so they put on wigs. And the list goes on and on and on of them playing games, right? And meddling and fiddling with when they're supposed to obey. And this is why the Messenger of Allah warned us against imitating them. Many Muslims today, unfortunately, do the same thing. We try to play around with the rules. We try to bypass the rules. We try to find loopholes in the law instead of just obeying and submitting. And oftentimes when you play around with the law, you end up losing out on everything that you wanted. And when you follow the law and you obey, Allah Azza wa Jalla will give you the best of both worlds. That's proven by experience. When you just submit, Allah blesses your dunya. And He gives you exactly what you wanted, along with the reward, and along with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being pleased with you. Okay, now, moving forward. When we talk about New Year's, what are the main calendars of history? What are the main calendars? What were the ways that people kept track of time and years? Why do we have New Year's? Why is it on the 1st of January? This is, so anyone, after Alameen. Yusuf, Amir, what's the answer to that question? What's the history of calendars? Just mention some of the famous races or nations that had calendars, that kept track of their years. Greeks, Jews, Chinese, Christians. Think about this country. What's the history of this country? Aztec, Olmec. Many of these indigenous people in what's known as Mexico, Central America, they had advanced calendars in which they were calculating what? Time, precisely. All right? And much can be said regarding that. Anybody else? What about the Iranian calendar? The Zoroastrians, the Persians. Now, so where do we get the Gregorian calendar from? King Gregory or Pope Gregory? And what century? All right, what about why is January called January? What was one of the most important, history now? We have that which is called the Renaissance, right? What is the Renaissance or the Renaissance? In simple terms, what's Renaissance?
The beginning of the flourishing of the European...
Tajdeed, revival, renewal. Things changing, things becoming...
Rebirth, if you want.
Blooming and blossoming. Just like in Europe or Western Europe. But flowers only grow after what? The land is what? Barren, dead, winter. Then the pretty, beautiful flowers and trees grow up. So what came before the Renaissance?
Some rule, what they call the
medieval times.
Medieval times. All right, what's another word for those times?
Ice Age.
The Dark Ages. And they called the Dark Ages out of racism and prejudice. Dark Ages came after when?
Spain.
No, what fell? Rome. The time Rome fell, they called everything after their empire fell what? The Dark Ages. I think if it's not us in charge, then it's what? Muslim. Khalas, so that, yani. If we're not running the show, then it's automatically dark. So some call it medieval, some call it what? The Dark Ages. Everybody put this or not? So Rome falling was a major historical event. Big time. Rome split into two. Western versus the Eastern. Greek Orthodox and the Roman Catholic, Latin, etc. Huge, huge history. For Muslims, for Arabs, for Africans, the list goes on. Big, big, big event. So when they fell down, the Dark Ages, then it was a revival. So there was an emperor who wanted to celebrate and commemorate And he wanted to unify the empire with one standard way of keeping time. And that was because the further people get away from Rome, the less aware they were of time. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine living in a place in which you don't live in the capital, you don't know what day it is, or you don't know what month it is, or you don't know what year it is? You're that much of a peasant farmer or a warrior or this or that. You don't even know the true calculation of time. So in the capital of Rome, they had a very precise, detailed way of keeping the time. So Julius, the Julian calendar, he wanted all of the subjects in Rome to do what? Have the same calendar, regardless of their language, their race, their religion, their faith. And he wanted to dedicate this calendar to a goddess whose name was Janus. Hence we have January the 1st. Alright, so that's with regards to the history of keeping time. And it's very similar to what Allah tells us in the Quran. They played games. They devoted different things to different idols and different gods, false gods, right? Alright, so what is the ruling on saying Allahumma barik lana fi Rajab Sha'ban wa balighna Ramadan? Al-Jawab. لم يرد في فضل شهر رجب حديث عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. راجع جواب الأسئلة التالية. هل الصوم في شهر رجب له فضل معين؟ حديث من قال في رجب استغفر الله إلا هو موضوع لا يصح. Alright, so first and foremost, we have a Taman, we tell with ilmi, students of knowledge, with regards to that hadith, Ameen, O Allah, allow us to have barakah in Rajab and Sha'ban, and allow us to reach Ramadan. روى عبد الله بن أحمد في زوائد المسند الطبراني في الأوسط والبيهقي في الشعر وابن نعيم في الحلية من طريق زائدة من الرقاد. قال زياد بن النميري على أنس بن مالك قال كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا دخل رجب قال اللهم بارك لنا في رجب وشعبان وبلغنا رمضان. وهذا إسناد ضعيف. زياد بن النميري ضعيف ضعف ابن معين وقال ابو حاتم لا يحتج به. وذكر ابن حبان في الضعفاء وقال لا يجوز الاحتجاج به. وزائد بن الرقاد أشد ضعفا منه. So this hadith is extremely weak. It's not slightly weak, it's very weak. Now, certain times, certain hadiths can be mentioned for virtuous deeds, can be mentioned, I said, with slight weaknesses. Severely weak? No. Fabricated? No. And this is also a big problem with many dawah movements in and outside of the United States. They base their dawah movements off of extremely weak hadiths. And that's a problem. However, the meaning of this supplication for sure is sound. You ask Allah for barakah all of the time. And you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow you to reach the month of Ramadan. هل يجوز للمسلمين أن يدعو ربه أن يبلغه رمضان؟ أما سؤال المسلم ربه أن يبلغه رمضان فلا بأس به. قال الحافظ بن رجب رحمه الله قال معاذ بن الفضل كانوا يدعون الله تعالى 6 أشهر أن يبلغه رمضان ويدعونه 6 أشهر أن يتقبل منه. Think about that. Many of the Salaf, they would make dua for 6 months straight to reach Ramadan, to see Ramadan. And when they fasted, they prayed, they gave charity, they did all of those things in Ramadan, they would make dua for another 6 months for Allah to accept it from them. Think about that. When was the last time any of us did that? Think about Umrah. You save all of that money, you wait, you pay, I can't wait to get back. And then when you return from Umrah, what are you thinking about? You're reflecting, you're unpacking, you're giving out gifts, you're wearing robes, you're wearing cologne. You're still riding for what? 6 months. Waiting to what? To go back. That's when you really love a thing, when you really miss a thing. I'm waiting to see you, to visit you in a different country. I save my money and I wait half of the year. I want to see him, And then when I leave, man, I had so much fun. It was nice. I went back home, etc., etc. That was their attitude towards the month of Ramadan. So in general, a Muslim asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow him or her to see Ramadan, to be in Ramadan, is not necessarily what? A bad thing or a negative thing. Last but not least, this book, which is called Mukhtasar Lata'if, is a book I ansahakum bihi. Advise you guys to read, to check out. The author basically talks about the 12 Islamic months, the lunar months, and how there is a wazifa, there's a job, there's a duty, there's something for you to do in every single month. There's some type of virtue, some type of prayer, some type of superiority. There's something that you're supposed to be constantly engaged with all throughout the year. Right? Like consumerism. Valentine's Day. What's after Valentine's Day? Easter. What's after Easter? Memorial Day, then.
Independence Day.
Mother's Day.
Then, what's the next big one?
Labor.
Independence Day.
Labor Day.
July 4th.
I said independence.
Then what's after that? Back to school. Then what's after that?
Thanksgiving. Halloween.
Halloween. Then Thanksgiving. Then Christmas. They're keeping your pocket and your wallet what? Engaged 24/7.
365.
Spin, eat, drink, have fun, enjoy your desires 12 months out the year. So if that's what they're doing, then we need to what?
Fight back.
Can your party in the cook?
Um,
Cafe. As they fight all of you collectively. If they're not taking it for the gas pedal, then what should you be? You should be pushing it to the limit as well. Alright, so before we stop here, the author, he says here, وَظَائِفُ أو وظيفة الشهر رجل. Let's take a quick look. Page 154. Abdurrahman, you're going to read for us. بإذن الله. جزاك الله خيرا. Alright, page 154. This is the summarized version. There's a full version of the book as well, available online for free. Someone making Hajj Umrah, ask them to bring you back this book. Inshallah ta'ala. Alright. Bismillah. Fadl, اقرأ. Yalla, اقرأ. I said, good one. That was a good comeback. He said, man, you caught it like you did, right? Nice, good. My guy. All right, Bismillah. تفضل. وظيفة شهر رجب. تفضل.
خرج
في الصحيحين.
من حديث أبي بكر أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم خطب في حجة الوداع فقال في خطبته إن الزمان قد استدار كهيئته يوم خلق
طيب قرأنا الحديث وقال الله تعالى قرأنا الآية فأخبر
سبحانه أنه منذ خلق السماوات والأرض وخلق الليل والنهار
يدوران في الفلك وخلق ما في السماء
خلق ما في السماء من الشمس والقمر والنجوم وجعل الشمس والقمر يسبحان في الفلك
طيب فالسنة في الشرع
السنة في الشرع مقدرة بسير القمر وطلوعه لا
بسير الشمس وانتقالها كما يفعل أهل الكتاب. So, lunar versus solar. The moon or the sun. How do we calculate the time? It's a long discussion in itself. Alright. مراده بذلك إبطال ما كانت الجاهلية تفعله من النسي. We explained all of that. Alright, what's meant by that? So the history of the month of Rajab, okay, the history of the calculation of time. واختلفوا لما سميت هذه الأشهر الأربعة هرما. Why they're called haram. He breaks that down. Okay, and then he talks about what you're supposed to do during this month, what you shouldn't do. وقد اختلف العلماء في حكم القتال. Can you fight? And this goes to show is that fighting is something that's supposed to be indispensable in the life of a Muslim. Just like Allah Azza wa Jalla talks about the i'tikaf. What's the thing that he mentions you can't do in the i'tikaf? أيوة. ولا تباشروهن وأنتم عاكفون في لماذا؟ ذكر هذا فقط فحسب. لماذا أنتم لا تشربوا الخمور، لا تسرقوا، لا تقتلوا، لا تقل لهما أف، لا تولوهم الأدبار. وإنما ذكر الله تعالى Mubasharat al-Nisa. Allah only mentioned that's what you can't do when you make i'tikaf. I.e., men are supposed to naturally be what? It's natural, not right now. Don't go near them. Don't, so on and so forth. And here, the fighting is unlawful, i.e., from the most necessary and basic things of a tribe, of a people, is to what? It's a must. And the moment you go away from it, that's when you become a victim of other bigger, larger nations. Get rid of your weapons, we'll keep ours. You can't be a militant or an insurgent. We have the biggest, largest, fattest army and war economy. Something isn't what? Adding up. You be peaceful, we'll have all of the destructive weapons go. Something's not adding up. So the Muslims getting out of that mindset, right? Of being weak and feeble, right? And being at the mercy and protection of people. Allah Muslim, we've seen what has happened. Alright, so here he talks about that. Rajab, would mean, yeah, okay, etc., etc. Right, stop here tonight, inshallah. If there are any questions, we'll try to take them now. بإذن الله تعالى. جزاكم الله خيرا والله تعالى أعلم.
بارك الله فيك.
وفيكم. نطلع عليكم ها؟
لا والله
معلش
ما شاء
ممكن
الله.
أتعبناكم شوي.
جزاك الله خير.
إن حبينا يعني نشير بس نطلعكم عن الفوائد وكلام عن العلم.
ما شاء الله.
طيب, just want to share with you guys some beneficial sources, speech of the people of knowledge with regards to understanding of the Quran and Sunnah. Any questions before we start?
جزاكم الله خير.
وإياكم. All right, we'll stop here. صلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا وإمامنا محمد. جزاكم الله خيرا.